Welcome, everybody.
Hey, good morning.
Special sneak preview as to what this talk is about. It is about your own mobile app, your app name, your sweet icon that links your users to your visualizations. That's kind of a preview of what it's about. If that is interesting, please hang out with us as we talk about the Mobile App Bootstrap, custom mobile apps with embedded Tableau visualizations. I'm Ron Thies, and I'm a software engineer at Tableau.
And I'm Alex Burton. I'm also a software engineer at Tableau. So you've gotten a little sneak peek about what this is. We are really trying to unlock your creativity, your cool idea for your custom app, creating an integrated experience between a mobile app and a Tableau visualization. That's what this is all about. So, get those creative juices flowing. Everyone's a little tired after data night out, but our voices are still working, so I know your brains can be too. A little bit of fun facts about ourselves. I'm a developer on the mobile team at Tableau. My normal job is working on the mobile app, so I write code for that. I've been at Tableau about 2 years. And a fun fact about myself, I really enjoy rock climbing. So when I'm not seeking adrenaline by checking in code that I haven't tested to the mobile app, I'm out there on the rocks climbing some stuff. So not only does Switzerland have holy cheese, but they also have holy bouldering problems named after what other than Gruyere?
Yeah, I can go. Alex and I work together on the mobile team. I've been at Tableau for about 6 years. Alex rarely checks in code without testing it first. And one of my hobbies is playing independent video games. I just wrapped up judging on the Independent Games Festival, where I played about 40 games, including Heaven's Vault, that includes a pretty sweet timeline visualization that the player gets to use. So this talk is in the developer track. Tableau offers a number of developer tools. There are some automation and integration tools for when you want to automate the stinky stuff or integrate with your own back-end systems. Extensibility tools let you enable dashboards to do more capabilities than are built into Tableau. Some advanced analytics tools let you do analytics outside of Tableau. Data connectivity enables you to connect Tableau to more sources of data than come out of the box. And today we're going to be in the embedding area.
Yeah, so as Ron mentioned, this section is all about embedding. Some of y'all already might have stopped by the developer platform kiosk and talked to us a little bit about that. The Mobile App Bootstrap is very similar in spirit to the JavaScript embedding API, which is about adding your Tableau visualization into your existing web application. So maybe your company has a portal that your users can go to. And sometimes it can be a lot when you're trying to increase mobile adoption in your organization to ask your users to go out of their workflow and go check out something on Tableau every day. But it's a lot easier if you can bring the visualization that they need to them. And so you might do that by embedding it in your web portal, or in this case, inside of your company's custom mobile app.
So let's talk about what the Bootstrap is. It's a set of open source sample code set up as a mobile app that enables you to embed Tableau visualizations. And our customers tend to use it in one of two ways. They'll either start with the existing Bootstrap code, add on to it, or they'll take an existing mobile app and use the Bootstrap to either be inspired by or outright copy things from it into their existing app. So it's a set of open source sample code. It includes some examples of some techniques. It's completely free for you to use or copy or be inspired by. There's no separate Tableau licensing involved when you're using the Bootstrap. It's available on GitHub, github.com/Tableau. Just search for mobile, and you'll see the different repos there. And we'll say you create, you own, and you maintain your app. This is something that you'll have responsibility for. And sadly, computer programming is required. This is not just an advanced techniques within Tableau. There is actual coding involved. So we created the Bootstrap because customers would approach us with a number of different use cases. So folks who were running warehouses or grocery stores or hospitals wanted an easy way to grab information while they're on site, grab information about a specific element, for instance, products on a shelf, a barcode that's on a piece of equipment, things like that. The field sales team often needs access to a few particular visualizations. They might not need everything on Tableau server. They only need a couple of things. Those use cases are things that customers enjoy. Everyone wants custom branding. They want their own icon. It seems kind of silly, but everyone wants the icon to look like it conforms with the rest of their suite of tools. Everyone wants an integrated experience. They want it to feel like the app is part of their offering overall. Some folks want to give really broad access to their users. So one organization approached us. They have a number of physical stores. They have salespeople in the stores. The salespeople want to check the commissions viz basically at the end of every day. They don't need the full power of Tableau server. They don't need to browse dozens of visualizations. They just need access to one viz, and an integrated mobile app was something that they were pursuing. Some customers will have a similar approach to kind of offer in executive mode. The executives might not need access to dozens of vizzes. They really need targeted access for a few key visualizations. And this enables them to do that on the go. So out of the box, here's what it looks like. There are 4 buttons on the bottom, kind of a home button on the lower left, and 3 buttons to link to visualizations. It's got some example content in that home area. When the user taps one of those viz buttons, they're taken to a visualization which is predetermined by the app. So the user didn't choose their server. They didn't browse to find the viz. It just loaded the exact viz that was set up by the folks who made the app. We also include an example of a barcode scanner. So here we have 2 tabs on the bottom. A scanning tab on the left shows the camera feed, a live feed from the camera. Once the camera detects a barcode, it will jump the user over to a viz that is filtered based on the data in the barcode. So in this case, the barcode was 965889, and the viz has been filtered to that ID to show the user. It just jumps right over. It knows which viz to go to. It knows which field to filter on, and it makes it fairly easy for the user walking around who wants to scan something on the fly. I will say we're going to show mainly iPhone screenshots here. It works great on and Android, but it's a lot easier to show phone screenshots in a PowerPoint presentation, but it works fine on tablets too.
Hopefully y'all are convinced that you're at the right session for your needs, but we also have some other awesome things going on in the mobile world that might be sufficient to meet whatever needs your organization has. So first off, we have the mobile app that is in the App Store. As I mentioned, that's kind of what Ron and I mostly work on, but that has a lot of awesome features that your organization can use right now. No programming required to get started on that one. So we have Favorites, which is a curated list of your favorite content that matters the most to you. We also have Explore, which is a full server browsing experience. We have continuity between what you were just doing in the browser and the mobile app with recents. There's a lot of awesome stuff we have going on there. We also offer offline interactive previews. So if you have users that are out in the field and don't have connectivity, they can access their favorites offline, which is really cool. And we've recently added optional biometric authentication, so you can now add an additional layer of security to your app. So if you weren't convinced that your organization should be on mobile, and the mobile app bootstrap thing isn't quite sounding right to y'all, this is a great option. Let's say you want just a little bit of customization. You don't need to go the full 9 yards with a wild integrated experience. We also have mobile device management, which is a set of configuration options that you can tweak to adjust the app. So in the example on the slide, we start out with the normal sign-in screen. But let's say you want to make your user's life a little easier, and you don't want them to have to remember the name of the servers. So you can put those in there as predetermined server links for them to click on when they sign in. And maybe still having that text box is too much freedom for your users, and you only want them to be able to access the servers that they're supposed to. You can even hide that box as well. So we have some small options for customization in the mobile app that don't require you deploying your own app, which are worth checking out. So we have some sessions related to that. If you didn't have a chance to check them out already, we have a few coming up this afternoon, and they'll always be online after the conference. So those options might be right for you instead of the mobile app bootstrap. But now, what should your organization think about before you decide to do mobile app bootstrap? The idea sounds really cool. It'd be great to have an integrated experience. You can leverage all these cool native platform features like the camera and the barcode scanner, but there's some questions that you'll want to ask with your organization before you all get started. So first, you'll want to think about delivering your app. How are you going to provide it to your users once it's been built? For iOS, there's a couple options. The first is the Apple Developer Program. This costs $99 a year, and it's limited to 100 devices. This is good if you have a small deployment option, but what if you want to go enterprise? You're going big. You're also going to pay a little more money for the Apple Enterprise Development Program. This is $300 a year. Apple's going to be a little bit more curious about exactly what you're doing with your deployment, but that's an option if you have a large organization that you want to roll this out to. For Android, the good news is you can do whatever you want. It's really easy to deploy on Android. You don't have to pay extra money, and there aren't a lot of restrictions around what you can do. So you'll also want to think about exactly what operating systems and devices you want to support. Maybe your organization has iPads that they give everybody, or maybe people are bringing their devices from home, and it's their personal device as well as their work device. So you'll want to consider exactly, are they on phones, tablets, is it all iPhone or all Android? And by narrowing the scope of what you support, you can make it a little bit easier, at least initially, to get off the ground running. We also suggest declaring iOS 11 as a minimum version. Ron will get into more details about this later, but we leverage the web view heavily in the app and the mobile app Bootstrap, and there are some additional features that are going to be a lot easier when you use iOS 11. And we think this is a safe bet to make. This is some data that we collect about what operating systems people are on Tableau Mobile. The top is Android, and you'll see all of these horizontal bars. That is people who have been on the same version of Android since the dawn of time. Like dinosaurs that got their Android phones are still on version Lollipop, and they are not upgrading anytime soon. But on the bottom, you'll see there's more of kind of a ramp up for iOS. That's when the new version of iOS comes out, there's a much quicker adoption curve. So it's a lot easier for iOS to declare a minimum version and have an expectation that your users will actually meet the minimum version requirement. One last thing, even if you aren't sold on Mobile App Bootstrap, but your organization is interested in mobile, you'll want to think about what your visualization is going to look like on the phone. It's a much smaller form factor, and there are some special considerations. As of 2018.3, we've added this awesome automated algorithm to start creating phone layouts for all of the dashboards that you author, but you might want to think about additional customization that you should do to the visualization. It's all in Tableau Desktop. You can see exactly what it's going to look like when you get on the phone, and then you can enhance it and make it fit exactly your user's needs.
All right. Before we take a deep dive, let's take a shallow dive into some of the aspects of the Mobile App Bootstrap. So we offer a couple of different platforms. The first one is React Native. This is a cross-platform framework that lets you write one set of code and have it run on both iOS and Android. Your app winds up being completely native, and it uses JavaScript and React, which are pretty common web development technologies. React Native was created and is still primarily maintained by Facebook, and it's completely open source, so if you want to dig under the hood, you can totally do that to see what's going on. We like React Native so much that we use it to develop Tableau Mobile. We've had really good experiences with it. We find about 99% code reuse across iOS and Android, which means we can basically write it once and it works on both platforms. It's pretty nice. We found that other developers within Tableau who are familiar with React, when they see the mobile code, they understand 80 to 90% of what's going on right away, which has been great. And our UX designer, because React uses pretty familiar web technologies, our UX designer can experiment and make changes on his own without needing to round trip with a programmer to get something nudged over 2 pixels. He can go in and make that change himself. Some pretty well-known companies are using React Native. I will let you guess the logo here, but we feel like we're in pretty good company, and it's gaining in popularity. The other platform we offer is Objective-C. It's iOS only, and it's really made for an organization that already has an iOS native app and wants to integrate visualizations into it, but we do offer an Objective-C version too. All right, let's dive a little deeper and get a little more technical.
Hats now, everybody.
That's right. We'll take a quick overview of how we use web views in the app. We'll talk about URLs, how to construct them before passing them into the web views. Everyone's favorite topic, authentication, is absolutely on the list. We'll talk about connected clients for staying signed in longer term. We'll cover some ways to provide offline functionalities in the Bootstrap, and then some things to think about as you go to ship your app out to your own users internally. So how do web views work? The app makes extensive use of web views. So we have some screenshots of the Bootstrap, and on the bottom we have those 4 buttons, and on the top is where the viz is displayed. And that bottom part, those buttons are native. So when the user taps one of those buttons, the app determines what happens when they tap the button. That whole top section is what's called a web view, and it's a widget that's available to an app to use. The app can hand the web view a URL, and the web view takes care of downloading any CSS or JavaScript that's needed. It lays out everything that's in that space, and the app doesn't need to know how to parse HTML, for example. On Android, the default web view class works great. There are no real issues with it. On iOS, there are a couple of web view classes available, and it's worth knowing the difference between the two. The older one is called UI web view. The newer one is called WK web view. And UI web view has a number of problems. It is older. It isn't maintained anymore. It tends to crash at times when you don't want it to. Uses a bunch of memory. If you try to give it a really complex visualization, you'll get this strange behavior in the viz. And on top of that, Apple has deprecated UI web view. It will be going away at some point. The newer one is called WK web view. It looks like a modern browser. It uses modern JavaScript. It's less crashy. It's actually maintained by Apple. Uses less memory. And as of iOS 11, it enables the app to read and write cookies that the web view uses. This wasn't really possible prior to iOS 11. That's part of why we suggest declaring iOS 11 as the minimum version that your app will work with. In short, switching from UI web view to WK web view solves customer problems.
All right. So now that you know all about how the app leverages web views, you're probably wondering, well, what URL should I put in there? And that's a really great starting place for getting going with Mobile App Bootstrap. We suggest using a very specific URL from Embedding, and to be able to find it, you need to go to the viz that you want to see. Do not copy and paste the URL from the browser. Instead, click the Share button. You'll see this dialog come up, and there you can copy and paste the URL that's in the bottom of the dialog. This is going to be helpful for a few reasons. It's going to have some built-in parameters, and it's going to be in a special format that's better for the embedding scenario. So we also have some parameters that we suggest putting on the end of your URL. A parameter is anything that comes after a question mark in the URL, and you can use it to do some special configuration of the behavior without having to do any additional programming. So we have about 5 different suggestions for what parameters you should get started with. The first one is embed equals yes. You want your custom mobile app to feel like an integrated experience, right? So you don't want to show the Tableau server navigation and all of that. You want the navigation to be built into your app. So embed equals yes hides some of that stuff and helps create the seamless experience that I'm sure you all are all going for. Show app banner equals no is another good one. The app banner is the little banner at the top. When you click it, it takes you to the Tableau mobile app from the App Store. And I'm assuming if you're building your own custom app, you probably don't want to be redirecting people to the Tableau mobile app as much as we would love that. Additionally, toolbar equals no and tooltip equals no. These require quite a bit of additional work to support, so we just suggest disabling them from the start. And finally, mobile equals yes will tell the viz to serve up a mobile optimized UI that also is optimized for touch interactions. So you're going to want to do this even if you're on tablet as well. It makes interacting with the viz a lot smoother. There is a lot of other special magic that you can do using the parameters. So for example, the barcode scanner is actually using a parameter that's being passed into the web view to filter the viz based on the value from the barcode. So in general, you can use that same format with a question mark, And then you'll want to use the field name that you want to filter. So you can just go straight to Tableau Desktop, look at the name of the field that you want to filter on, and then set it equal to a value. And that's all it takes to get it to filter. There's one small extra thing that I should mention, though. URLs can only accept certain characters. So if your field name or the value has parentheses or spaces or other non-supported URL characters, you're going to need to encode those to make them URL friendly. But we'll take a look at an example for the barcode scanner. So the field for the barcode scanner is MRN parentheses scanning field. And that's the value that we're passing in as the field for the URL. And in this case, you'll notice some weird percentages with 20 and 28. That is the URL encoded version of a space and a closed parenthesis. So you'll want to double check that you're encoding your URLs correctly. There's a lot of libraries out there to do that you should be able to access super easily. And in this case, when the barcode finds the value it's looking for, it just sets it equal to the field in the web view. And there you go, your viz is filtered. So you can do a lot of different things with native capability in this filtering. Maybe you want to use geolocation and filter based on where the user is. You might want to do other things with the camera. There's a lot of really powerful options for what you can do with this parameter-based filtering.
Everyone's favorite topic is authentication, especially on mobile. Mobile authentication is a huge challenge, such that Tableau has like a 5 or so person team just focused on authentication in mobile. Having someone who's sitting in a coffee shop at a Starbucks sign all the way into your Tableau server, you'll have to think about how that process works. Your app will almost certainly have to deal with authentication one way or the other, unless you're somehow only connecting to Tableau Public. But assume you'll need to authenticate. So what does that look like? So the really simple version is the app and the Tableau server are both inside of the private network. And this is pretty straightforward. The app can ask server for a viz, server can hand it back, and there's kind of nothing in between. If you have a virtual private network set up, from an app's perspective, this looks like it's fair. The VPN makes things fairly invisible because at the operating system level, it has taken care of authenticating the user into the network. And it makes it so that the app can, as far as it's concerned, just make a request of Tableau server, and server can send back that viz, and it looks like there's kind of nothing in the way. It's a similar setup for if you've got a cloud configuration, if your server's hosted in AWS, to the app, it looks like it can just access that server, and the server can hand back the viz. So what does that sequence look like? If the app asks for viz A, and the server doesn't know who this user is, it hands back a form that says, I don't know who you are, please fill out this form. Perhaps it asks for a username and password. The app sends back the encrypted username and password. Server says, I understand who you are. Hands back viz A and a cookie to send up on future requests. The app uses that cookie when it asks for viz B. Server takes a look at that cookie, says, I know who this user is. They have permissions to access viz B, and hands back viz B. There are a few more subtleties if your organization uses a reverse proxy, because it's kind of it acts like a middleman in between and might have its own demands that it places on requests. So that reverse proxy will have its own notion of, is this device authenticated or not? Depending on how authentication is set up, this might be pretty smooth. It might go through okay, especially if the reverse proxy and the Tableau server are using the same authentication server. This might be pretty seamless, but keep in mind that if you've got a reverse proxy, there might be some more subtleties as far as how many cookies you need to keep track of. The reverse proxy might have its own notion of a cookie that it wants to set. That cookie might have completely different timeouts than the Tableau server cookie, so that's worth thinking about. Server comes with a default expiration time of 240 minutes of idle time on that cookie. So once the user gets the cookie, if they're idle for 4 hours, then the cookie expires, and they will have to enter their credentials again. This is the same timeout that affects any user signing in with Chrome, for example. You get on a PC, sign in with Chrome. If you're idle for 4 hours, it times out. You have to sign in again. You can set a lifetime limit on that if you want. by default, it's off, but if you want to make it so that cookie will, no matter what, expire after a certain amount of time, you can do that. And these are configuration settings that you can manipulate with TSM. And I always forget, these are just normal config settings. I always forget the sequence to do it, but it's TSM configuration set, key name, and then value. That'll add this key to the pending changes list. You can see a list of changes that are pending. And then with pending changes apply, your server will restart and you'll have the new timeout value. So you can really set that to whatever you want. And again, that will affect both desktop browsers and your mobile app connecting.
So that's sort of the basics of authentication. Right now, everything you're doing is just inside the web view. The web view takes care of showing that username and password dialog and then loading up the viz once it's all finished. But as Ron mentioned, the default timeout is 4 hours, which means your users are going to be entering their username and password into that viz every 4 hours that they're not using it, which can be a little bit annoying. So this is the most advanced topic we're about to cover. Buckle up, but I promise it's worth it. This is going to deliver the best experience to your users possible, and it's called connected clients. It's all about giving users long-lived sessions so they don't have to sign in every 4 hours, but they can still be authenticated to Tableau server in a way that's secure. So because this is an advanced topic, we're moving outside of the web view now, and you're going to have to start sending some network requests and messing around with some of the cookies that are in cookie storage. But I'm going to walk you through every step, so hopefully it makes a lot of sense by the end. And you can always refer back to this talk if you go home and you're confused. So you're going to start with the session ID. To get that, all you need to do is have your user complete the authentication in the web view, and that session ID is going to be present in your cookie management. So you'll take that session ID, and you're going to use that to get some extra special tokens from the server called OAuth tokens. There are two types of tokens. There's an access token, which is your short-lived token. This is going to replace the session ID token, and it's what is actually going to confirm to Tableau that you're authenticated. And then there's the refresh token. And you're going to want to save this refresh token in persistent storage, because this is the token that lets you continue getting your users signed in. So once you've done that little exchange, you'll be able to put the access token into the web view, and then your user will be able to get vizzes. So you'll have to do some network requests to get the access token, and then make sure to add it into the web view. You might notice, though, that after 2 hours, your user will no longer be signed in the web view. So you'll need to add some detection logic to the web view to figure out that they're not signed in anymore, and then make some more network requests outside of the web view. This is where the long-lived refresh token comes into play. You'll send the refresh token to Tableau server, and then it'll send you back a new access token that you can put into the web view and continue letting your users view the viz without having to enter their username or password at all. So this little bit of extra networking requests and sneakiness is really helpful for providing your users the best possible experience, but it does require a little bit of extra work. So once you've done that, you'll be off the ground rolling. I mentioned that you'll need to detect when your user needs to re-authenticate, and you'll want to do that in the web view. Remember, the whole point of this is that we don't want to show them that username and password field. So you're going to want to detect when that's about to be brought up in the web view. Luckily, the web view provides an event handler that lets you know all of the URLs that are about to be loaded. In this case, it's on should start load with request. You can use this regular expression to detect that the sign-in page is about to be shown, and then kick off that cookie dance and the refresh token flow once you detect that. If you have a reverse proxy, you might have a custom sign-in page URL that gets shown before the Tableau one, in which case you'll just want to write up your own regular expression to detect when that's about to be displayed in the web view. Just like with the regular authentication flow, there are some default configurations. First of all, you'll want your server admin to enable connected clients on your server. You can do this by going to the server settings. Just note, though, when you turn this on, it's also going to affect other parts of Tableau. So desktop also uses connected clients, and you'll want to consider the impact of turning that on or off. Additionally, server admins can remove devices with these tokens. So let's say somebody leaves your organization. You can go in as a server admin and delete those tokens. Or let's say they lose their device. You don't want the user, someone else, being able to get into that visualization without signing in. And so all you need to do is delete them from the server. All right, finally, there's some server settings that you can adjust for the default times. I don't know if anybody is good at math, but this, what is it? 120,000, no, 1,296,000. It's a lot of numbers. That's 1 year. The default expiration time is 1 year. So your users can stay signed in for an entire year without having to re-enter their username and password, so long as they're active in the app once every 2 weeks. So y'all did it. Congratulations. You made it through the hardest topic. Everything here is going to be smooth sailing now. Thanks for staying with us. Appreciate y'all a ton.
Yes, it's all super easy from here on out. So let's talk about offline. There are two main ways to offer offline functionality in your mobile app. The easiest ways is to grab images of visualizations. And you can do this just by slapping .png on the end of the view name. So if you've got a URL with workbook name /view name, put .png on the end, and you'll get an image. And this works in a desktop browser, too, if you want to try it out. You can also specify the size, so you can ask for a particular width and height for that image. So in an app's case, the app would think about, the app knows how big of a space it wants to show that image in and can ask for an image that just fits that space. And the app can then store that in local storage in its app documents area for later use. Both images and embedded views follow the same layout rules that are in effect for just a normal web browser connecting also. And those rules look at the space that the viz wants to be displayed in, and it uses some logic based on the smaller of the width or height of the dimensions that are passed in. So if the smaller of the width or height of the device is less than 500, the phone layout is the one that gets used. If it's between 501 and 800, the tablet layout is used, and if it's 801 or greater, the desktop layout is used. So if you've seen those configurations on the upper left on Tableau Desktop, this is the logic that gets used on the back end to determine which layout gets served up. And this is going to apply if you're showing a visualization, whether offline or online, and will apply for images too. All right, it is possible to display vizzes offline also. They can be interactive. It's some limited interactivity, but they're interactive. The first step is for the device to ask for a viz in offline mode, and we'll talk about how to do that in a second. The server then returns the HTML for that viz and some references to some zip files that are needed. These zip files include static resources that any offline viz for that server will need to use. So once that HTML file comes back, the app wants to save it out, save, for instance, viz1.html off to its app documents directory. If the app doesn't yet have those zip files, it asks server for the zip files, server hands them back, and the app saves them to the documents directory and then unzips them there. Because both the HTML file and the zipped up resources, once the zipped resources are unzipped, everything lives in the same directory, and it's a kind of a self-contained area that won't require any network requests later on. So to ask for that viz in offline mode, instead of asking for views/workbook/sheet like Alex showed, we want to ask for offline_views and then use a query parameter that is local paths equals true. And this will make it so that the viz will, instead of asking Tableau server for the JavaScript and CSS and font files that it needs, it will look for those files locally. Those are the ones that were included in those zip files. To request the zip files, the first part of the response to the offline viz is that HTML file. The app wants to save that out in app documents. And then there are a couple of headers included in the response. So the HTML file comes back. The HTTP headers, there are two of them, VizPortal static assets URL and the VizQL static assets URL. And those will be paths and file names to a location on that server where those static assets can be retrieved. The app should check to see if it has downloaded those files already. If it hasn't, that'll happen on the first request. If it doesn't have those files, go ahead and download them. On subsequent requests, it won't need to download all of those zip files. So on request 1, it'll take a little longer because it'll need to grab those resource files. But on requests 2 through 5, for those extra visualizations, or the next day when that viz is updated, it won't need to re-grab all of those resource files. When it's time to actually show the viz, mechanically, it kind of looks like this. So instead of handing the web view an HTTP URL, it hands it a local file URL and says, hey, look in my app documents directory for this viz. When the web view sees it, it goes, looks in the apps document directory for the HTML file, which is sitting there. And then all the subsequent JavaScript and CSS that it needs, it also looks for in that app documents directory, because we passed in that local paths equals true query parameter. And that was super straightforward and easy.
Much easier than authentication, right? Well, I have to say, y'all are actually the very first people that we have ever shown how to do that. So y'all in this room right now are the only people that have ever been explained how to take things offline. And it's something that we're really excited in the mobile app about, and we also want y'all to be able to build it out for your custom mobile app. So now, hopefully we've kind of inspired your imagination. You're thinking about all the cool ways that your organization can do this, but what are sort of the final steps and considerations that you might want to take before you actually ship your app? You might want to consider using analytics in your app to track how your users are interacting it. What's the adoption rate like? Are people actually using this product that you've just put so much hard work into programming up? You can check things like the device model, the version of the app that they're using, the actions that they're taking inside. More than likely, your marketing team already has a solution for this if you're doing custom mobile apps. But if not, all it takes is a quick mobile search or a search in Google for mobile analytics, and you can pick whatever paid for the highest ad space on Google to use for your mobile analytics. And so one kind of fun thing about this that we actually do at Tableau ourselves, we collect these analytics, and then you can convert them into a Tableau data source, and then you can visit up and show your boss how many people are using the awesome app that you created that you should be promoted for doing. For supporting your app, you might want to have some additional features. Just initially, we've had a lot of success using Intercom for mobile. You'll notice there's that Tableau sparkle at the bottom. You can make this whatever your company's logo is. When you click this, it opens an interactive messaging platform. So this is what we were using when we initially deployed our mobile app. And actually, you'll see a photo of Jim, who's sitting right back there in the audience. People were able to message him about what they thought about our mobile app with feedback. And we could also send users messages about new features that we had. We had a lot of success with this. There's a lot of different ways to configure it. And you can get a lot of direct interaction and feedback from the people that are using the app that you developed. Check it out at intercom.com. They didn't pay me to get up here and say it, but I'm doing it anyways. Finally, for testing, you want to deliver a quality product. React Native has a lot of really great built-in testing options. You should write your unit tests, your integration tests, but there's also ways to run tests in the cloud on real devices that you'll want to consider. Oh, no.
Some sort of Adobe product, Alex.
Yeah, apparently turning off notifications doesn't apply to Adobe. All right, y'all did it. Congratulations. We made it through all of our deep technical topics. We've covered how the web view is one of the most important things that we leverage to display visualizations. You know exactly what URL to put in there and where to find it. We tackled authentication in the web view and also giving your users that long-lived sign-in experience. You can take things offline with images or with interactive previews. And you know exactly what steps to take when you want to ship it and deliver the best possible product for your integrated mobile app experience.
Great. So to wrap up, there are a few things to kind of think about. You'll need to consider how your app will connect and authenticate to your Tableau server. Think about how important custom branding is, what that integrated experience should feel like. Does your target audience really need to access a few well-known visualizations? And on the resource side, it's worth thinking about who will create it and then who will kind of wrangle it long term. You, dear customer, play an important role. We directly adjust our priorities based on your interests and desires for the Bootstrap. We often discover that a customer is using the mobile app Bootstrap when they're mid-crisis and then come and look for help. Let us know early. Like, we can save you some headaches, and I mean literally email one of us. We will show our email addresses in future slides. We would love to talk with you, or contact your friendly local neighborhood salesperson. They would be happy to put you in touch with some more resources that can help out. With that, please do complete the survey. We would really enjoy to read your feedback. We'll read all of the responses.
We also have some other awesome mobile sessions, some of which are still coming up today. So I know it's the last day of the conference, but you haven't missed out on yet getting to see all of the different things that mobile has to offer. So this afternoon we have Tableau on mobile. That's a great talk. And you can also check out online deploying Tableau Mobile at an enterprise scale. That happened earlier in the conference. Today we also have on the road mobile use cases, design, and successful adoption, which you should check out as well if maybe the Tableau mobile app sounds interesting to y'all or it's something that you could leverage in addition to the Mobile App Bootstrap.
The Tableau Developer Program does offer a number of advantages. You get access to APIs earlier than everyone else. We've got a Slack channel that includes Tableau developers on it. Notably, there's a free site of your own on Tableau Online. If you would like to do experiments on a Tableau server but don't want to mess with your production server, you can do that in your own sandbox on Tableau Online.
One last plug for the Tableau Developer Program. This lets you have Tableau superpowers. Whenever I tell people about the things that I've done in Tableau that I'm most proud of, 99% it involves using the Tableau Developer Program and using APIs to create really interesting or integrated experiences, taking action inside dashboard. There's a lot of awesome stuff that you can do with it. So check it out on GitHub. It's github.com/Tableau. If you're just interested in mobile things, just search down for mobile. But there's a lot of awesome tools you could do. We would highly encourage y'all to sign up. You'll be the first to get access to our new APIs, give early feedback on what we're working on, and it can really take your Tableau experience to the next level. All right, thank you all so much. We're going to be up here for questions after.